We've got the very latest on the possibility of the Rams trading for Jalen Ramsey. The Rams sign a former Pro Bowl alternate, and the Rams getting new uniforms in 2025. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Just past 17,000 subscribers, trying to get to 18K. Drop your comments down below. Do you want to see the Rams trade for Jalen Ramsey? My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, is out, but he'll be joining us again tomorrow. We've got a jam-packed show. We've got the latest on the Rams and Jalen Ramsey. Could we have a reunion there? What is the major sticking point right now? The Rams sign a former Pro Bowler, and the Rams getting new rivalry edition jerseys in 2025. That's coming up, and let's dive into it. There's a lot to get into on today's show, and we're going to start with Jalen Ramsey. So first, let's look at a sticking point, and this comes from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. And he said, quote, "The sticking point here is that $24 million in guarantees could be the holdup. My sense after asking around is Miami has not been overly eager to cover some of that bill, which sort of makes a trade hard to pull off right now. The LA Rams, it could be a reunion here. They've been in the mix here. They are a team to watch, certainly for Ramsey." So that is the sticking point right now. Is would the Rams be willing to make that trade if the Dolphins are willing to pay down a little bit of that contract, to take down some of that contract? Because it's definitely a contract where it's a good chunk, right? I mean, if you look at the cap, the Dolphins, if they wait until June 1st, that would save them $10 million. So if the Rams do make that trade, it would make sense to wait just a little longer. The Dolphins, they are openly trying to move off of him. They do want to offload Jalen Ramsey, and it's not realistic for them to think that they're going to get a lot in return, a high draft pick or anything like that, a major player, just because they don't have leverage. You're looking at a day 3 pick at the very best, and a team is going to assume that contract. And if the Rams are looking at that deal as a one-year deal in the $20 million range, well, you kind of paired that with Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams. That just signals, hey, we're going all in 2025 with established stars, guys that are probably past their very peak, past their apex as a player, but can still be top 5 to 10 at their position. And when you add the other parts around and the great coaching of Sean McVay, then you're looking at a team that can contend for a Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey is turning 31 in October. He also had a torn meniscus a few seasons ago. So when you kind of look at Jalen Ramsey, the player, that's kind of the big question is, what version of Jalen Ramsey are you getting? Are you getting a guy that you feel confident can solve some of your problems at the cornerback position? Are you getting a guy that will convert to safety at some point? Sure. I think you look at the kind of the pros and cons of Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he had the highest missed tackle rate of his career last season. So he had 14. That was 2 less than he had in 2021 and 2022. A 70.8 reception percentage allowed. That was the highest of his career. And his 5 pass breakups were the fewest he's had in a full season since 2019, since he was traded from the Jaguars. So it's not saying that he's not a potentially top 10 player, but is he the guy that the Rams had when he was at the peak of his powers in 2020 and 2021? that I think is the safe assessment there. I mean, you look at where he's at this point of his career, you look at a lot of kind of the metrics on him, and you could say that he is top 10-ish at his position. You could say that he's top 10-ish at his position. Last year, if you look at his PFF grade, his overall grade was 76.9. That was 16th out of 222 qualified cornerbacks. The pass rush grade, 19th, but his run defense grade was top 10 out of 222. His coverage grade, though, was 39th out of 222. Had 2 interceptions, 40 solo tackles, 12 pressures, allowed 46 receptions. That was 35 out of 222. So, yeah, I mean, you also have to factor in that's a year coming off the meniscus injury, and you're not in a great situation down there. I mean, how motivated are you down there in Miami for a team that, yes, they have been a disappointment? So you have to kind of consider all those things. And the other thing to consider as well is just the current state of the Rams secondary. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if Jalen Ramsey was the elite version of himself, and that would be very additive. But when you look at the current state of the secondary, he would still be an improvement. He would still help this team. I mean, you look at the Rams secondary last year, I mean, you're bottom 5 in almost every single category. I mean, they allowed the 5th most EPA per pass. They were 26 in yards per pass. I mean, they were literally bottom 5 in almost every single category last season. So with guys like Akella Witherspoon and Darius Williams kind of an incremental improvement. But yeah, I definitely think that Ramsey would still help this team. I really do. I mean, this was really interesting what Albert Breer had to say on Monday Morning Quarterback about a potential position change. He said, I'm really, really intrigued by the possibility he converts to safety in the next year or two. I think he would be another Charles Woodson or Rod Woodson in that regard, where that would extend his career into his mid-30s. So I mentioned that on this show a couple of weeks ago about the possibility of having Jalen Ramsey go to safety, be a Rod Woodson type, and that would kind of justify if you have him here longer than his cornerback prime or post-prime, kind of the twilight of that, and it kind of make a lot of sense to just be a beneficial player for your defense. But, yeah, I mean, just from the contractual standpoint, the Rams would be looking at taking on the $5.9 million of his contract in 2025. He has a $25 million cap hit in 26, and you could cut him and save that $6.6 million and then try to negotiate a new contract. So, I mean, there are ways to kind of get him in your building, get him on your roster, and make sense of it. And I think there's 2 ways to look at it. He takes a D secondary and makes them a C with your defensive line and your edge rushers. Then you're looking at a better version of a defense, especially with Chris Shula in his second year. And then the offense can carry the team. I mean, we saw the last couple of years that was the expectation, and really it was the defense that kept him in it for the last couple of seasons early on, and the offense kind of got going later in the year. But I definitely think that is certainly a route that you could go. And it is intriguing to think of him as a guy that can play in that star role, right? A guy that can play in that role that the Rams utilize, and him kind of being back in a little hybrid version of that. So for me, I still think that, yeah, Jalen Ramsey is not going to be your typical outside boundary CB. I mean, he's definitely different. He's a guy that can come up and make plays in the run game. I mean, that's certainly an area where they could use some improvement. He was the 7th best cornerback against the run in 2024. So he can come up and make plays in the run. So that definitely is good too. And it can make you feel good about the possibility of that. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, for me, like I said, the odds of you kind of finding a guy on the scrap heap that can take this secondary over the top, or Kobe Durant or Darius Williams or Akella Witherspoon playing above their level of play from last year, is unlikely. So, I mean, if this is your best option to improve that position, I think that McVay loves the guy. The Rams organization clearly internally, they think highly enough of him to want to bring him back. So I think from that standpoint, he could turn back the clock a little bit, and you could get some vintage Jalen Ramsey moments. He's not old, right? But he's just kind of older for that position. But I think he's got enough in the tank for another Super Bowl run. And I think that would fit with the timeline of where the Rams are at in this window that they're currently in, which is, hey, we don't know if Matthew Stafford is going to be on this team next season after 2025. We don't know if that's the case for Devontae Adams. Sure, this does kind of feel like, all right, these are kind of Pro Bowlers and all-pro players from 5-6 years ago, but they're still solid players that have glimpses of, okay, we got some elite moments in them. And, yeah, I just think that I have Stafford for a year minimum, hopefully 2 years. I think it will end up being 2 years. I think Stafford plays with his team for 2 more years. Devontae Adams is a bigger question. But, hey, get the band back together. And if you have to wait until after June, as long as McVay is still in on him, Les Snead in this organization, they did not take a cornerback and the high picks that we thought maybe they would have in the draft. Clearly, it tells you there was something up their sleeve, and that something could be Jalen Ramsey. But coming up next, the Rams sign a former Pro Bowler. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off or live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The NBA playoffs have been absolutely electric this season. The Knicks beating the Celtics in overtime, the Nuggets going into OKC and stealing Game 1 thanks to Aaron Gordon's big shot at the end. Joker still looking like the MVP of the league, even though they're going to give it to SGA. The Nuggets are a plus 1,500 right now to win the title, and they just stole Game 1 from the Thunder. That could be interesting. How about tonight? The Golden State Warriors, a minus 6.5 in Minnesota for Game 1 of that series. Hey, with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, you got to like the Warriors' chances in that one. So you got $200 in bonus bets to add if your first $5 bet hits. So just think about that. $200 in bonus bets. That would add to that excitement, to that rush, to that electricity of watching the NBA playoffs. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. The new listeners, the new viewers, got a lot of you lately post-draft. Join that Everyday Listeners Club. That's where you watch and listen to an episode of Locked On Rams every Monday through Friday, and then you won't miss a thing about your favorite football team. Okay, so the Rams made a sneaky signing return specialist, 2024 Pro Bowl alternate Britain Covey to a 1-year deal. He was injured for most of the 2024 season. He played 5 games, still was a part of that Super Bowl winning club. He had 7 receptions for 34 yards. He returned 6 punts for 46 yards. He had a couple of stints on the injured reserve list, so he definitely was limited. He didn't play a ton, but before that, he was significant. He really had some pretty big years. In 2023, he led the NFL in punt return yards, had 771 yards on punt returns, and 236 yards in kickoff returns. He also had 11 catches for 76 yards. So, Britain Covey is someone that people are a little shocked in Philly did not make the roster and that they kind of moved on from. But he's someone that, look, yes, he is a special teams guy, you're going to see him mainly used in that role where the Rams can definitely use a boost, and this is a marginal upgrade, which you like that. The fact that, hey, you're improving on the margins, but you don't know. This guy could pop. I mean, one punt return, one kick return can change a game. It can flip a game. So to have a guy that's in that specialist role can be big. And then you factor in, hey, this is Sean McVay. Maybe there's something that they see in him, a role that he was underutilized in Philly. And maybe they see a package for him. A couple interesting things about him. How about this? He grew up in the same city as Puka Nacua. They're both from Provo, Utah. Covey is 5 years older than Puka Nacua. They did go to different high schools, but hey, the Rams struck gold in Provo, Utah for Puka Nacua. Maybe the same thing happens for Covey. He's also a high school quarterback. He was undefeated as a starter, went 26-0, had 56 touchdown passes, threw for 4,492 yards, was the Utah Valley Football Player of the Year 2 times. And he got a lot of yards on the ground, too. Almost 3,000 yards rushing, 44 touchdowns in his career, had 111 total touchdowns. This guy's an absolute beast as a quarterback at the high school level. Was a first-team All-American as a returner in 2021 for Utah. And he's Utah's all-time leading punt returner. At Utah, he had 1,092 punt return yards, had 5 punt returns for touchdowns. And in 2021, I mean, he was great. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, 427 yards returning, had a 97 yards kickoff returning he had a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So he can go the distance. He led the NFL in punt return yards in 2023. His rookie season in 2022, he returned 33 punts, 10 kickoffs, had 514 all-purpose yards. And then in 2023, he returned 29 punts, led the NFL in 417 yards and 54 yards as well with that, too. So, yeah, I mean, look, he still has not scored a touchdown as a returner on the kickoffs. So, who knows? I mean, maybe that could happen for him with the Rams. I mean, you look at this special teams unit, you haven't seen a lot of explosion. You haven't seen very much of that for the Rams. So, having a guy then come in that role, that's pretty exciting. I mean, really. I mean, I like the fact that you're improving in a lot of different ways. And look, it's rare to return kicks for touchdowns in the NFL. Last year it happened 7 times. The year before that it happened 6 times. So you're looking at less than 10 times per year. By the way, can you remember the last time the Rams had a kickoff return for a touchdown? Wait for it. It's back in October of 2017. Pharaoh Cooper returned 103 yards against the Jags in Jacksonville. I remember it. It started the game. He gets it, and he runs it all the way back. And it's been a while since the Rams had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So hopefully Covey can get it done, and he can be that next guy to do it. So, yeah, it's just an interesting signing. I do like this signing. I do think that it made sense for the Rams to kind of just explore every avenue where they can improve. And this is a guy that can certainly improve that. And we'll see if they can find a package or two for him on offense. We'll see if that's a possibility as well. But I'm sure that on a 1-year deal, you're just kind of exploring a bunch of different ways he can help this team. And we know mainly it's going to be on special teams. But coming up next, the Rams getting new jerseys in 2025. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Skylight Calendars. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. I mean, what would it mean to eliminate the I don't know excuse from your family's routine? Just imagine having a 15-inch HD screen to help you stay focused, and you'll be less overwhelmed. You can assign everyone their own color, so that kind of finally solves who does what and the confusion that exists with that. And how many plans do you just miss because they're buried and they're not in an organized place? So this helps with all of that. Highly, highly recommend. I have it myself. I love it. I use it. It stays on my kitchen table, helps me stay locked in all week long. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off your first 15-inch calendars by going to skylight.com. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your first 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, here in our third segment, we're talking uniforms. So the Rams, they were listed as one of the teams that are going to be participating in the NFL's new rivalries program. So they revealed this during the draft. It's a partnership with Nike that's going to give 8 teams new, unique, alternate uniforms this year. And those uniforms are supposed to be inspired by the community. So I guess that they're going to have this LA feel to them. They're going to be inspired by the city of Los Angeles, and I think it's similar to what Major League Baseball has done with their City Connects. If you follow the Dodgers, the first version of the City Connects, they were blue. They said Los Dodgers on them. They had the splatter paint on them. Supposed to be graffiti to me. It reminded me of the La Brea Tar Pits. But the second one was the Dodgers one that kind of looked like the cupcakes. They had the sprinkles on them. I don't know if they came with a hat that had a candle on top, but that was the second version. And then the Lakers have the NBA City Edition uniform. So that, I think, is what this is about. And you're going to have 8 teams in each of the next 3 years, and all 32 teams will have one by 2028. So that is going to be interesting to see what comes of this, what it's going to look like. Nike Football tweet out, "This is rivalries. Nothing brings communities together quite like a good rivalry. Rivalries make you work harder, scream louder, and give it your all, whether you're on the field or in the stands." Says each participating team will wear a unique rivalries uniform with design rooted extensively in local community insights during a single home game against a division rival. The designs have been brought to life by pulling inspiration from the history of each market and the aspects of the community that only the team's cities embody. So is it going to be beach related? Is it going to be have the Hollywood sign, Santa Monica Pier, the Hollywood Nights type feel to it? They could go a lot of different ways. Have a bunch of traffic on it. I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting to see how these turn out. And they say it's going to be when they play some of their rivals, right? So the 49ers, I'm assuming, will be the first matchup that they have these in. So they're going to be unveiled before they play their rivals. So the schedule is released on May 14th. So we'll kind of have an idea of when we're going to see these, because I'm assuming it'll be against the 49ers, whether that's at Levi's, whether that's at SoFi Stadium, we don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, this kind of goes back to, I'm ready for a new uniform. I'm ready for an overhaul. I do like the modern throwback with the yellow, with the sole, and the white tops, the ones they wore when they won Super Bowl 56. And I definitely do like that. I think that that's an improvement. I think the rounded numbers, kind of the shiny look to them is cool for sure. But I think the home ones, I still don't love the gradient. And the gradient, it looks interesting in the night, and it looks interesting in the lights. But for me, I think the Rams are one of those teams, and it honestly, it bothers me. It really does bother me, because the Rams are one of those teams where, yeah, you can sprinkle in an alternate jersey. You can use something different, but the Rams are in the same class, in my opinion, as the Las Vegas Raiders, as the Green Bay Packers, as the Dallas Cowboys, as the San Francisco 49ers. And that is teams that never have to change their jerseys. The Rams should have the same jerseys as they did when Sports Illustrated had the Rams having the best jerseys in the NFL in the early 80s. And yes, you can make a modern tweak to that and have it smaller, because you're not going to have this huge, you're not going to have the huge Dylan Gabriel, Youngblood, and the whole gang back then, you're not going to have those massive horns on the shoulders, right? But you can make a smaller version. And then the helmets, I think the helmet's grown on me more than the jerseys have. I think the helmet's not bad. It's kind of segmented, so it kind of looks like two kind of moons on top of each other. And I get it because it's supposed to kind of look like the Ram or three-dimensional. But ask yourself this. If that was the helmet the Rams had when the Rams became the first team to have a helmet logo, would every third high school across the nation, every high school that was the Rams copied that? I'm not so sure, right? I really don't know. I think that what made the Rams helmet so special was that swirl and how much it came in. Yes, is it as realistic? You got Vikings horns on. How realistic is that? I mean, you got the Buccaneers. Is a Buccaneers a pirate realistic? I mean, for me, it's uniforms should be something to give you pride to have fun with. And I would love the Rams to kind of do what the Browns did a couple years ago. And that is the Browns, they tried to go ultra modern. They rolled out new uniforms. And for the most part, they played terrible and they looked terrible. But they went back to their roots, and now they're back to having the Browns uniforms where, yes, they have the all-white ones and there's some cool ones in there, but now it's back to where their roots are and the classic with the stripes. I think the Rams should do just that. I really, really do. I mean, having the Rams logo, the off-white stitch on it, the Rams uniforms, their colors, their original set is so nice, you never have to change it. Look at this town. The Dodgers, they're never going to change their uniform. I guarantee you that. Like, I can look you in the eyes and tell you that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, the Dodgers uniform is going to say Dodgers in the script, have a red number, and yes, they'll have an LA on the sleeve. Yes, because they're going to have a Guggenheim patch, but it's going to look mostly the same. The Lakers, they've changed a little bit. I mean, in the 2000s, they had the side paneling and the wider thing happening here, but they have kind of gone back to their roots. The color needs to go back to gold instead of yellow, but it looks mostly the same. USC football, they went from the stripes on the shoulders to the stripes on the side of the shoulders. They've gone back, and they haven't changed since 2002. The USC Trojans is pretty much the same since 2002. UCLA stripes are the same. I mean, when you have a great uniform, you do not need to change it. And sure, you want to sell more uniforms and all that stuff, but hey, last time I checked, I see tons of Raiders uniforms, and they never change. It's just black with the silver numbers. I see tons of Cowboys uniforms. I see tons of Packers uniforms. Those teams aren't changing anytime soon, and they're never going to change. I mean, the Cowboys added the navy with the outline, and you could kind of do something on the road to mix it up. But I'm telling you right now, I want to see the Rams go back to their roots. None of this gradient stuff, okay? None of this gradient stuff. Let's go back to what made the Rams. Look, here's the thing too. The Rams. Their jersey sales for a major market. I mean, they're towards the bottom of the league. Okay, they're towards the bottom of the league in jersey sales. Yes, a lot of that is you already have some of those jerseys, right? Aaron Donald's retired, and Cooper Kupp's another team. Matthew Stafford, but with Puka Nacua, I mean, you have an opportunity for some major jersey sales, and then Arch Manning in a couple years too. So. I'm a traditionalist with uniforms, and I just kind of want to use it as an opportunity to say I want the Rams to go back to their roots. And look, if you're going to do a top 10 uniforms right now, it's not going to include the Rams in any list I've ever seen, right? But I think if you go back to the throwbacks, but you kind of put a little modern twist to them, I think they're going to look great. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.